Hello everybody and welcome to this new episode of This Week in Tech. This week is crazy. Seriously, there's so many crazy things that happen in tech that I want to tell you everything about. The first one is a new AI algorithm that is capable of turning any sort of text into images. And I like to call this a spaceship for our minds. That's because Steve Jobs defined the computer as a bicycle for our minds, but this thing brings everything to the next level. Then we're gonna talk about Elon Musk gaining a majority stake in Twitter and try to understand what that can possibly mean, Amazon getting the first labor union, and then a tiny new robot that looks like a magnetic snail that can get into our bodies and help doctors cure diseases. Let's get started, because all these things are crazy and I really want to tell you everything about them. There's a new AI algorithm that blew my mind. It's called dall-e 2. Check it out. It generates images of anything you want, from a koala dunking a basketball to an astronaut riding a horse, even a bowl of soup that is a portal to another dimension drawn on a cave. It can also do something more. It can modify existing images using just text. Check this out. This is a picture of a chair with a dog, and just by saying, hey, I want to turn it into a cat, here you go, you have a cat. I have no idea why you would do that. I mean, cats are better than dogs. But anyway, you can do all sort of things like putting a mohawk on a Mona Lisa painting. So goodbye Photoshop, I guess. Before telling you if and how you can use it, I want to tell you how this works. dall-e 2 builds on the success of dall-e 1, obviously, which is a model that the company OpenAI released 1 year ago. But dall-e 2 is much more realistic and have 4 times the resolution. But both of them use a kind of neural network called a transformer that was trained using associations of images alongside with their captions. In this way, the neural network learned how to map the two things, how to map an image with its text description and the other way around. It then uses a process called diffusion. Basically, the neural networks take a bunch of random pixels and then start modifying these pixels until the neural network recognizes patterns that match the text description that you gave it to. Now, let's go into the juicy question. Can you use it and how? Right now, you cannot use it yet. And that's a good thing, because OpenAI is taking a very cautious approach to make sure that this system is used ethically and that they have all the different checks in place to stop misuse. Imagine this is so powerful that people could use it to create sexual images of people that definitely don't want to be included in these kind of pictures, or to spread misinformation. So right now, they allowed just 200 trusted people to use it, and they opened a wait list, which I signed up for, so that slowly people are going to be able to use it, and they're going to be able to adapt the model to make it safe to use for everybody. I love both the technology and the ethical approach to releasing it, but I'm still thinking, how is this going to be used? Probably it's going to make completely obsolete certain jobs, or maybe it's going to be just a tool to power human creativity, a spaceship for the mind, as I like to call it. What kind of uses do you see for this kind of technology? Let me know in the comments. So, Elon Musk bought a majority stake in Twitter. Let's try to understand what it means, because as usual, the devil is in the details. Let's start with the facts first. Elon Musk bought 9.2% of Twitter, which is roughly $2 billion and 4 times as much equity that Jack Dorsey has. Jack Dorsey is the founder of the damn company. By law, if you own more than 5% of a public company, you need to disclose that. And as soon as Elon Musk disclosed the fact that he owned all this stock, the value of the company went up almost 30%, making Elon Musk an instant profit of roughly $700 million. But let's try to go a little bit deeper. When you buy more than 5% of a company, there are 2 different ways of disclosing that information. One is a 13D, which is a form that is for people that want to actively take control of the company and influence the way that the company is going to evolve. And then there's a 13G, which is a smaller form, it's much easier, and it's for people that don't want to be active. Now, Elon Musk filled the 13G, which is the form for people that don't want to be active. But I'm going to tell you about a couple of things that he did, and then you tell me if it seems like it is the case or not. First of all, he made a poll on Twitter asking if people thought that there was free speech on Twitter. People said no, and he said, well, the outcome of this poll is going to be really important. Then he made another poll asking if people wanted Twitter to have an edit button. Everybody wants Twitter to have an edit button, but it's a really bad idea because Twitter became basically the public square where people express their opinions. And imagine the chaos if people start writing something, everybody else starts commenting, and then they edit their first message. It could be a potential very negative tool. And so it's not a super easy thing to understand, and definitely not something that you should decide with a Twitter poll. And the weirdest thing is that Elon Musk now got a spot on the board of the company. And we already know that he doesn't like the current Twitter CEO. He compared him to Stalin in a tweet, and it really sounds like he wants to do a lot in the company. So it doesn't seem that he was going to be inactive. He also signed an agreement called a standstill agreement that basically prohibits him from acquiring more than 14.9% of the company, which means that he's not going to do what's called a hostile takeover, when you have so much shares and so much power that you basically do whatever you want. But still, he has a place on the board, and he's using his influence to decide where the company is going to go. So there's a bunch of questions that we're going to ask here. It really seems like Elon's power is so big that he can for sure manipulate the stock market however he wants, and for sure he can bend rules as well. I mean, he filled a form for people that don't want to change the course of a company, and it really seems to me that he's doing it. So let's see how this is going to evolve. Let's see if he's going to be able also to manipulate Twitter itself. Amazon finally has a union. The workers in their warehouse in Staten Island voted on the 1st of April to unionize and form an organization that is going to negotiate for the workers with Amazon to demand better working conditions. Now, it's pretty easy to know and imagine why workers at Amazon want to have better working conditions. Amazon is famous for really squeezing their employees and for having low pay. In the end of the day, this is an empire that was built on top of operational efficiency, so-called, which basically means trying to squeeze your employees as much as possible. What's interesting, though, is the counter-arguments that Amazon is trying to push. It says that unions, first of all, have a cost, and so all their employees are going to have to pay for the lawyers and the organizational structure that this union is going to have. Then they say that it's not necessarily true that the interests of the union are the same of the workers, and that it's not even guaranteed that having a union is going to actually give them better working conditions. Now, obviously, Amazon knows that if they're going to have to increase the pay, which, by the way, it's now $18 per hour, which is way more than the minimum wage in the US. At least this is the case for the warehouses in the more expensive cities. But if that happens, if Amazon actually has to increase the cost of its labor, that's going to be a big problem for the company. The entire company is an empire built on the fact that it can be efficient, their products are cheap, and shipping is super fast and basically free. So more costs is going to potentially threaten that, unless, and this is what I'm afraid of, Amazon is going to start thinking that paying people is going to be too much, and they're going to invest even more in automation. So instead of having better jobs, we're going to have no jobs. This tiny robot can get into your nose and into your lungs to pick potential cancer cells. It's a tiny 2 millimeters thick kind of snake that is magnetic, and this is how it's gonna work. A lot of times when patients are sick and they have cancer in their lungs, it's really hard to go and get a sample of this cancer. And so this is how the doctors plan to use this robot. First, they make a scan of your lungs so they have a map of the different network of your airways. Then they're going to take this robot, insert it through your nose, and through some external magnets, they're going to instruct it on how to reach this cancer that is potentially, let's hope not, in a very deep part of your lungs. When the robot gets to this cancer, it can pick cancer tissue and then head back to your nose, get out, and give this tissue to the doctors. They can analyze it and find the best treatment for you. I think it's super fun that a professor at biomedical engineering at Johns Hopkins University imagined a future where a doctor finds a cancer in a patient, then takes this tiny robot and says, go get it. So the robot can go into your body, pick up the cancer cell, and then get out and give it to the doctor for him to analyze it and find a cure. There's going to be still 5 to 10 years before we can use it, but this seems a super cool technology that can potentially help doctors make a better job and make patients live healthier, longer lives. Thank you for watching this episode of This Week in Tech. If you found this video useful, please subscribe and share this with your friends so that they can also be up to date on technology. I'm gonna talk to you next week. Ciao. Before I leave you, I want to tell you that I started my new community programs. In these community programs, you're going to get access not just to these videos, as well as all the research links that I have to read to know about this news, but you're also gonna get access to bi-weekly deep dives. These are 1.5 hour sessions that I do on Zoom, where people can come in, listen to me speaking for 45 minutes about the most important topics in tech. I usually take just one, really dissect into the most important things and explain it well for 45 minutes, and then we participate in a conversation when together we try to understand how this new technology or this new trend is going to impact society. I'm going to leave the link so you can check out more information and join it if you want.